But one of the more crazy series, both results and just the game management, has been the Oilers and the Kings, I think. I think it's a great place to start. We just saw last night game 2, so it's a little fresher in our minds. If I'm an Edmonton fan, am I worried? Should I be worried? What do you guys think? Justin, what are your thoughts on that side of things?
Well, if I listened to Luke Gastic last night on Sports Central, which I did, you should not be worried because they haven't lost a home game yet. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he might not be worried. He also played for the Edmonton Oilers, so he might be thinking about that in that way. But I'm worried. I can guarantee you that. And you know what? You know what the biggest sidebar, but you know what? I don't want to ever see if I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan again.
Mm,
The harmonica anthem. I do not want to see
interesting.
that come out for Game 5. If that comes out for Game 5, you must already pack up the plane and we'll go back to Edmonton. It's over.
It's over.
Uh, anyway, back to actual context with the series. Listen, Stuart Skinner has not looked great, but it's not just him. It's the whole team. Evan Bouchard might be the most nonchalant defenseman in the NHL. You can see it on Quentin Byfield's, I think it was the second goal last night for LA.
Yeah.
Like Quentin Byfield, or Evan Bouchard's just coasting around the zone. And if you haven't seen it, go look up Evan Bouchard's goal, or sorry, Quentin Byfield's goal, and just watch Evan Bouchard in the background, and you'll understand what I mean. Because he does not like play any defense in that situation. He just coasts around, and it's like then after Quentin Byfield scores, he acts like the puck didn't go in, and he's trying to save it from off the goal line. It's actually quite funny, but he honestly did not play well last night. No one really on the Oilers played well last night. They're getting outbeat on special teams, which is something that they have not been beaten on in the last 3 years of this
Mm-hmm.
series. And yeah, like the team just, I don't know if it's like the fact, like McDavid said before the playoffs, like we're not the walking wounded. I really think that has played a factor into this. And I'm not saying Edmonton's not the better team. I think realistically they are the better team. I think it's more so the fact that you're trying to insert guys and get their legs back in game 1 of the playoffs against a team that is actually the best team at home in the NHL. So I think that's kind of what the problem is with the Edmonton Oilers. Like they're on paper, to me, they are the better team. It's just we're not seeing it because of how many injured guys are trying to come back and be effective and playing through injuries. Like Trent Frederick is a perfect example of that. Evander Kane comes back last night. Like it's just too many injuries that have piled up, and they're trying to be forced back into this series because they're trailing, one, and number two, they feel like they need to be out there because it's the NHL playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, we're seeing what happens when you have a well-oiled machine in the LA Kings that is just rolling going into the playoffs.
No pun intended there. The well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's the case too, Justin. I mean, you guys know on this very pod last week, I went ahead and picked the LA Kings to beat the Oilers in the series, and not necessarily because that I thought they were the better team. I think this is the closest in terms of a gap that these two teams have had since the in the 4 years that they've been playing in the playoffs. But it was just the fact that the Oilers were not coming in healthy, and that they had, in my opinion, significant injuries amongst their entire roster. We haven't seen Ekholm in this series, and we're not going to. McDavid, Draisaitl, they're dealing with things. Frederick, you add in the Kane and the Kane injury as well, with him coming back into the lineup. So I mean, they're just not in the best spot to kind of make a run in these playoffs, especially when you consider the quality of teams in the Western Conference in general. Like even if they were to somehow come back in this series and beat the Kings, which is I think still a possibility. You look at
Mm-hmm.
the type of talent that Edmonton has, they're not necessarily out until they're done, right? We saw that last year in the Cup final, that they can, get hot and get kind of going in a series at any point. But when you look at kind of the sum of the parts of the LA Kings right now, and just the way that they're playing, they're definitely going to bring back the harmonica anthem for Game 5. It's the playoffs. You roll with what works, right? So
Yeah.
these guys I think they're going to be feeling good heading into Games 3 and 4. And if they don't get one in Edmonton, then now we're talking about a real series, and we'll just have to see how the Oilers look as the playoffs continue. Because there's no doubt that they're playing at what is 80-75% of maybe what they have
Probably.
been in the past. Like I think
even
that's very fair. So
Even Hyman had an injury before coming into these playoffs as well. Like, so there's another one. The only other thing I wanted to like touch on right before we go to you, Alex, is like, I don't know if you guys were noticing last night. It was a breakout play, and John Klingberg, who just came back in the lineup as well, another injured guy on defense, kept the puck the whole time he was skating up the ice, and you can see Leon Draisaitl asking for the puck, and then eventually Leon Draisaitl goes offside because he's expecting that puck. Everyone else gives him the puck in that situation, and that's what you usually do. You give him the puck. So not only are they just coming back from injury, like you can also see the chemistry just isn't there with this team. Like you would see later, and you can see John Klingberg, like on Leon Draisaitl's goal, like instead of like shooting the puck, he looks for Leon, and like that's improvement from what he did on the previous play. But you can see the chemistry just isn't there with all these guys, especially because a lot of them are new and they haven't played together. Like Trent Frederick and Evander Kane, I'm gonna say is new to this lineup. You added Victor Arvidsson as well. Like you took out Jeff Skinner in game 2, so a lot of these guys don't really normally play with each other, and that's what I think is causing a big hiccup as well with in terms of getting offensive production from this team.
Yeah, they're definitely like it's dysfunctional, which in the Edmonton Oilers side, you haven't really come to expect it too much, especially with those top-end players. And he's a grumpy guy, and he deserves to be. Like, he can act however he wants on the ice or off the ice, the way that his style of play dictates. And when I was watching the game last night, I'm thinking, man, like, if it's not for him in 97, like, there's no chance in the series. We saw it in Game 1. McDavid went completely superhuman and put together an Herculean effort with a goal and 3 assists just in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the game, right? And you can't get a bailout save at the end from the Deneau goal, which obviously was just a brutal one, and those pucks go in the playoffs. But it just doesn't seem like they're getting any help. And Stuart Skinner aside, I think we can just suggest that he's not having a good performance by any stretch of the imagination. Neither is their backup Pickard, who let the first goal in last night.
That was
my God. It was a good goal. It was Kempe, a good shot, but he's just no momentum, no boost. You can't get a one save from the backup just to kind of, hey, maybe we're in this or anything. But I remember, I'm going to toot my own horn just a little bit here, because on the SLS hockey show, I was putting together all of my thoughts of who would be blamed if the team that lost in each series lost. And for the Edmonton Oilers, I originally said Darnell Nurse, because I'm like, you know what? Like, Matthias Ekholm's gonna be out, and he's not gonna be able to kind of mask a lot of the issues that might happen on the Oilers defense without him. And Nurse is gonna have to step up and sort of be that guy. Like, they have Kulak to kind of fill the gaps, but Nurse is the guy that gets paid like a number one defenseman. And him and Bouchard, as you mentioned, Justin, have been horrendous. I originally said that Bouchard's offense will hopefully mask, people will go, okay, he's at least putting goals in, and a Bouch bomb or two will kind of let people forget about his defensive mishaps. But my God, he's playing like a house league defenseman. Like, he's just making passes in the middle of the ice. I will defend him on the one you brought up, though, Justin, just in the sense that, like, it looked awful when Quinton Byfield came in. And it's because, I don't know who he had on backdoor, but there was another player on LA backdoor, and I think Bouchard was trying to play the middle, so he was like, give Byfield the shot that Skinner can hopefully save and block the backdoor pass. It looked horrendous, so I think he made an okay play there. He's kind of caught in no man's land, but Nurse and Bouchard pairing have been, essentially, they might as well not be on the ice.
Watch 10 seconds before that, though.
What do you mean? The play development?
Yeah. Watch 10 seconds before that, and you'll totally see what I mean. Like, I agree with, like, he's stuck in between, like, rock and a hard place trying to defend 2-on-1 there. But if you watch the 10 seconds before that and how the play develops, you'll see he could have very easily had the puck, and that play never develops in the first place. Yeah, but no, he just decided to coast around.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. I do want to just give LA a bit of credit. Like, I mentioned like earlier in a different pod, they have to score in order to defeat Edmonton. Like, and they have historically not done that. They're more of a defensive team, but they're putting pucks in the net, 6 goals and 6 goals, and their power play have been a big reason. They're 50% on 10 attempts. So, and that's Edmonton numbers.
10 attempts in 2 games. Like, that is ridiculous.
You can't do that. You can't get that many penalties. And whether it's maybe it's a horrible PK from Edmonton, or maybe it's just LA finding ways to score, i.e. Andrei Kuzmenko. Like, it's unbelievable.
I did think this is kind of interesting. They are rocking the 5 forward look as well now.
Yeah.
With Quentin Byfield, Kopitar, Kuzmenko, Fiala, and Kempe on the top unit. So I don't know if they saw what Toronto was running earlier in the year and decided, like, hey, let's give it a shot. But it's working. It's definitely working.
Well, and that's the thing with LA is like with the development of Byfield and the additions of Kuzmenko, even Fiala in the last couple of years, like they are a legit offensive team now. And if their power play is humming like they have been, they can, I think, score with some of the best teams in the Western Conference. And they, getting by Edmonton is not going to be their Stanley Cup. Like I think this team, if they get good enough goaltending, which I think is probably at this point maybe their biggest question mark. I think people could look at this team as a legitimate, Western Conference final possibility. And just my last thought on Edmonton on the Skinner thing is because Alex, you brought up the question of who's going to get the most blame potentially if they do lose this series. I do think Skinner is probably the guy who takes, whether it's right or wrong. I think he has the opportunity to play better, but he's kind of stuck in a spot where he will probably eat a lot of the blame if they lose. And if Edmonton goes into the summer thinking that we got to upgrade at goalie, I don't necessarily think that's the worst thing for them, but I think they have other, areas they need to address as well. So it could be interesting to see kind of how it all plays out after the playoffs finish. So
I know we're already sort of counting them out, but I actually do agree. I think a lot of the time when you're building a team, maybe looking at it from more like a development rebuild perspective, like a Chicago or a Sharks, if they were, or maybe a team that's in a worse position, like if Boston looked to rebuild, like you have your goalie and you build from the goalie and then the defense and then the forwards. So I wouldn't be surprised, and I know you're going to jump in, Justin, on the defense, and I agree. They're a little thin back there, but I would think if Edmonton goes out, like we're already counting them out, but they do look bad, and Skinner has let in 6 and 5 goals. Whether your defense is the problem, you just can't let that many in. That's just playoffs. Yeah, so I think it was an off-season change, and they're going to have to find something to kind of fix those problems.
Would you guys start Skinner in game 3?
This was gonna be. I was gonna say we need to move on, but the last question about this series is who do you start for game 3? And I'm gonna say, Derek Lalonde on the Sportsnet panel said last night that he thought. Wednesday night, that they thought since you're giving Pickard looks like 10 minutes into, because it wasn't like he was pulled, it wasn't like Skinner was pulled directly after a goal. It came out of a TV timeout that he was pulled. So to me, I would have to agree with what Derek said in the sense of they gave him looks because they wanted to see, like, are you going to be able to play game 3? And I would assume that they're going to roll with Pickard to start game 3. Stuart Skinner has let in 11 goals in a game in 2 periods or 2.5 periods.
Something like that.
It's not going well for him. It's obvious something's not working. So I think I would lean Pickard in this situation, and I think that's the way that they're gonna go. How about you guys though?
I would. Man, it's so hard. Skinner got them there last year. Like, he wasn't perfect, but he had like a Darcy Kemper type performance and was able to kind of hold the fort down. I think there was a stat going around that Edmonton has only won like 3 game 1s of their last 14. I don't know if the numbers are exact, but
no, that's right.
Now we're in game 2, and obviously you can't really lose game 2, but he's been able to kind of fix the problems. So do I go to Calvin Pickard? I mean, it's now or never. So if gun to my head, I probably would say yes, but I would be hard pressed to be like, Skinner's done it before. He might be able to turn it around, but I think you have to go to Pickard in game 3.
The Edmonton Oilers have only come back once from a 2-0 series deficit in their history, 2006.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And they won.
I mean, I would
no,
still.
they didn't win. They were runners up that year. Sorry, Brandon. They
No,
they
no.
lost to Carolina that year, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
Finals.
sorry. They won the series that they were trailing 2-0 in.
Yes, but in 06 they ended up
They ended up
losing
going
in
to
the
the
finals.
finals.
Yeah. They lose it. They lost in the
So
finals.
they made a good push there. Yeah, sorry, Brandon. Go ahead there.
No, I was just gonna quickly say I'd actually go. I would probably go with Skinner for game 3, but with
Okay.
like a very quick hook. Like I would not give him 5 goals to work with. I'd like 2 or 3, especially if you consider them not great. Like I'd probably roll Pickard, and then if you can bounce back or have a bit of a fiery, response in that game, then maybe you stick with Pickard for game 4. But
if you let in 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, pull them.
Like it would be
that's kinda
something like that. Like you would
yeah.
have a very, very quick leash on him, and you would not hesitate to go to Pickard, knowing that he's been able to jump into some of these games already. But I don't really have any trust in him right now either. So it's hard to say I would want to kind of rest my season on his shoulders, right?
I know.
So,
yeah,
but it's tough. Yeah.
They've come back from 3-0, but they didn't win the series, obviously, last year. So that's a big hole if they can't get on the rails.
Obviously, we've talked a long time about this series, but like this has to be the most disappointing Canadian team to start the postseason, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking. Yeah, I would
Montreal's
say so.
trailing 2-0, but that's not disappointing. Ottawa's trailing 2-0, but that's not disappointing. Edmonton trailing 2-0 is the biggest disappointment to
that's
start
fair.
the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, I would have to
That's
agree.
fair to say.